photo of the rooftop. It's not big. It's about 1,000 square feet. And it has all the labeling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all in Chinese, it doesn't matter. Basically, it describes that all this thing here, like the banner on the floor, the tire, the bamboo, all these ventures, all these are rubbish before. And now some people donate to us because in the art center there are so many events, and after the event people will throw away the stuff, and we are like a garbage collector, and we just take it all, or people know that what we are doing and they just chuck it all to us, and so we build up the whole things from rubbish. And I think it looks quite nice. Yeah. Today I actually bring some. Hello. Dou Xiao Hang, some people say it's oregano, and some people say, what is that? Patchouli. Yeah, what is that? I bring about 20 of them. Anyone actually want to take it, just grab it quick. It's free. And it's actually it boosts your confidence in planting. Because I remember last June, there's a Northeast New Territory. It's a bad day. The electrical, they green light the funding. Wow, there are 5,000 people at the electrical. I was there, and me and my partners, we bring soil and also this. So many of it, not particular thing of what we're going to do, but saying, we can give some to you. So, because people like to look at green stuff, right? And at the end of the day, everyone is sort of like collapsed because it's green lighted, the funding. So I was standing at the electrical at the front, and people just walk by, and I have like 200 of it. And then I say, hey, take it. And then some students, they take it, but some people say, oh no, I will just make it die. But then it ends up that they won't die. And I just tell them, even you forget to watering it for 1 week, it won't die. And actually remember, don't watering too much. If you're watering too much, it will die. Yeah. And it will grow very high. It will grow like that and like that. So I put it at the table, so anyone want it, take one and take care of it and bring it to your home. Yeah. It needs sunlight. Yeah. Less water. Okay, Hong Kong potato. Okay, I should bring a whole potters of potato. My friends just say, wow, we have actually very beautiful potato in Admiralty at this time. Because at the electrical, we are still having a little farm at the Timei Road. And this is the potato like that. Have anyone grown potato before? Or if not, yeah. Anyone want it, I can give it to you afterward. You can actually share with your friend. Cut it half and give one to a friend, and you keep one. Basically, it's very easy. Just put it inside the soil. Don't let the sunlight see it, because it will turn to green and will become poison. If you think that I'm really lazy and I always no time to look at it, maybe you can put some basic compost, like some compost, and put it at the soil and just cover it. I remember I went to YouTube, and someone, is it Jamie Oliver? He introduced how to grow the lazy way of grow the potato. You just buy a whole bed of soil. He cut one here and cut one here, and one potato put at the top inside, and the other one chuck at the side. That's it, done. Put a little bit water. Potato, again, no need to have a lot of water. If you put more water, he don't like it, or she don't like it. Okay. Yeah. And I have a Hong Kong potato. Yeah, actually it's all gone. I think I didn't bring enough. It's in Chinese, unfortunately. We should translate into English so that for people understanding. But again, it's like a comic book. It's a lot of drawing. Okay, I leave it over there. So here are a few, well, let's look at this one. Do you know what is that? Compost. So because we have a whole rooftop, this is all the banner, and this is all the beautiful compost. You look at it, so many colors. All these are from our community because Sekkyupmey is an area of different kind of people. So some artists, they give us their food waste, and we have one of the famous master of piano makers, Gu Kama. I don't know what's in English. And he opened up the wood and have so many sawdust, and he just give it to us. Because for compost, you need dry material and you need the food waste. Food waste is watering, right? It's smelling if it's too much water. But you need to put some dry material. So you need dry leaves, sawdust, or some dead wood or dry leaves, and you mix together. They have a percentage like 1:35, 1 to 35 for the carbon and what? Yeah, nitrogen. Yeah. So, but we never know this formula. We never really like calculate because it's an old way of making compost. You just do it. You do it by years. You just do it, and you know how to do it. And any more photos? Yeah, this is our rooftop. See, so many people. We have workshop. I think this is the workshop for potato and other things. Do you know what is that? I'm not quite sure, but this is all the things that some people they throw away, and they are like some plants or something, and they are trying to pick up the rubber, like the rubber from inside. So it's a collective work. Yeah. And kale. This is kale, superfood. You go to the supermarket, they are super expensive, but they are super good for your body. I tried to grow it last year. I think it's not for summer. Actually, it's so easy. It's like a magic. I just throw in the seed, and the little seed will grow. At the very beginning, when I grow it, I was very timid because I worried the bird will eat it all. But then I saw that, okay, the bird, you can eat it. And then I plant more, and then it just grow. I actually, it's the end of the season. I have to harvest, and actually I bring some kale here, and again it's free, no need to buy. You can just eat it fresh, or I just ask the people there. They have an oven. You can put the kale inside the oven and make the kale chips. Yeah, it's really super nice, very healthy chips. I don't put oil and salt. It's just very delicious and healthy. We can try it at the back. Okay, afterward. And wow, this is another. Can I talk about it? Okay. Okay, Hong Kong potato. We done it. Okay, but you can still see Hong Kong potato. Okay, this is MOT. This is where the occupied last year from September to December, right? This is the farmland, right at the Harcourt Road and Timei Road, if you can imagine, or you drive. Okay, it's just coincidence, and actually, I remember the date we opened it up is October 25th. What happened that morning? One day there's a crazy guy called Rishi. He just jumped into that and start digging up all that dead root. And that's how it started. And another crazy person called Emily, I actually bring some seed and pot in the occupied area 2 weeks ago and then start the planting. Rishi is actually here with us. Hello. Yeah, and we become friends and connected. And Michael as well. Michael occupy Mong Kok. And we knew each other when we studied permaculture before. But then we don't plan this kind of thing. I just go there by myself. And I think he just do it by himself in Mong Kok. And same as Rishi, we just go by our own reason. And then we encounter. And we set up the whole things in very specifically 46 days. And of course, at the end of the day, the police has to clear everything and it's gone. But you can see that we try to use the permaculture way to start up, to experiment the farmland. Some people say, wow, why you are doing it? This is government land. And then we say, this has been destroyed by the tear gas on that day, 85 tear gas, and it's all gone, and the police car parked here. So we try to build up something from nothing. Yeah, and all this like beautiful glasses, because we are near the Wan Chai area and Pacific Place. So many people drink, right? So we got many thousand of bottles. So we can make the garden. Yeah, actually, Richard, do you want to talk about it? Anything? You can say, come here to say hi. Yeah. The reason that why Hong Kong Potato is, I think Hong Kong Potato is a project that evolving and invite more people to come to join. And now the experiment land is in MOT. So, yeah, here we go. So let the first man who jumped into the land to talk a bit.
Hello? Okay. Sorry, can I have the cable? Thank you. Basically, yeah, when we started, people were like walking by thinking like, what is this? Why are you doing this? This is about Occupy, it's about politics. But if you think about it, I mean, farming is it's a very political thing. It ties into a lot of issues of land use. It ties into food sovereignty. It ties into religious aspects of biodiversity, climate, air pollution, all these aspects. And basically, it was also very related to the fact that Occupy was all about the fact that our political system was very dominated or very one-sided. And farming and agriculture and nature is all about diversity, and so it's very much connected to the whole issue of Occupy. That there's only like a very one-sided system where we can only choose one leader or two leaders from like a pre-selected pool. Whereas nature is about diversity, is about working together, it's about symbiosis. And these were the messages we were trying to spread and create, and of course also inspire people to think like, hey, why don't we have any more farming in Hong Kong? Why is it all like in the new territories? Why is it all being encroached upon by developers? And we have so much land which is not being used in a very efficient way. Like this farmland we had was basically not being used, or at the moment now you can see it's being replanted with some kind of, we call it fake plants. It's not fake plants, but it's just these ecologically useless plants, which they then throw away after half a year and then replace. Whereas, you can do small-scale farming in Hong Kong everywhere. And then this is also part of, making people aware of, where food comes from, because in the end, every one of us eats. We all eat. And where does that food come from? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what goes into it, how the soil is, how the water is, what happens to it afterwards. And this is a way of giving people more power, giving people the empowerment to, like, you can grow your own food, what goes into it, and not to be dependent on China, which is like our main supplier of vegetables. So, and yeah, if I can say about our current idea is that we are now actually reapplying to the government to say, we have these pieces of land which are public property, public land, And we're asking them, well, who decides what to do with them? Like, why is it used in this way, not in some other way? So we're kind of challenging the status quo or the paradigm that this is can only be used for like decorative planting, and saying, why can't we just apply for land and use this for planting? So we're now trying to find out the right department and going to ask them, like, can we use this for urban gardening, which is also very relevant in terms of the government having released the new policy on agriculture and how to farm, where they also mentioned urban agriculture, but don't really go into detail into that. So that's one of our current projects we are working on. So.
Okay, so I think I finished my presentation, and just one word is, just imagine we only do the urban farming in only 1% now, and there are still 99% for potential to develop the urban farming in a positive way. So please join us to grow potato first, yeah, and be the producer. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kit Chen. Basically, I come today to have fun and to catch up with my dear friend Glenn over there, as I haven't seen him for over a year maybe, yeah. And all these people I know from work, as I'm an editor for a local magazine, Eat and Travel. I think the local friends will know Yum Sek Lam Lui, actually, yeah. And it's basically it's a food magazine, yeah, food magazine. And strangely, it has a little page, namely Green Life, yeah. So I'm basically the guy who try to ask people not to eat too much in a food magazine. Yeah, that's my job, in short. So like 5 or 6 years ago, I started visiting different people, farmers mostly, who grow their own food or grow organic stuff in Hong Kong, when it's not really like a trend as in now, yeah. So and then apart from the farmers in the new territories, I started doing something in the urban setting. And so I met Michael, Glenn, and all these other lovely people who are doing their own projects in the city. Yeah. As I don't have a body of work to show like them as a presentation, so I better sit here and talk. But they have stick some of my work over there at the entrance. Yeah. Like some features I've done over these years, yeah. And you can see the map over there. There are some photographs taken by Glenn. Actually it's a book project. We were trying to do like a year and a half back then, yeah. As we are trying to do a book about farming on the rooftop in Hong Kong, yeah, because it's quite interesting, as there are more and more people, they try to grow their own food, but they one reason is they cannot find the land far away in the countryside. But if you can use the building where you're living in or you're working in, then it's a good thing, as it's very close, just a few stairs up, and then you can take care of your veggies and fruits and all kind of plants over upstairs. So we're trying to do interviews with different kinds of rooftop farms, and then I have a health issue, and it happens my stomach has some problems, so we kind of stop there. But we are trying to find a way to start doing it again. So here are the farms we visited so far. Actually it's not all of them. There are still so many over the city. Like a new friend we just met before the discussion. Yeah. She was amazed by so many farms hidden on the, on our buildings. And yes, this is indeed a thing. So that's why we want to do a book on it, and hopefully we will continue very soon. Yeah, and what should I say?
As you like, but we can also maybe bring up some questions. If there's anybody from the audience, actually, who already had some questions or wanted to know a little bit more about something from what one of the groups said. Otherwise, I can also ask a question. Because actually, it's been really nice the last few days or the last week. I've been visiting also with all of you in preparation to try to learn a little bit more about what you're doing. And something that has come up for me that I find very interesting is this idea of stressing all of our roles as producers. And then as along the lines of what Emily was talking about before, that anyone in the city can also become a food producer. But on the other hand, as with this group that we have here, everyone is also a producer as an artist or a creative worker of some sorts. And so this split between being a producer of a food and being a producer of, for example, ideas or pushing a message, I think it actually maybe for some of you, we talked about this the other day, that it causes a kind of split. And there's maybe even basically a time balance problem, like how do you understand your time, which of course farming is very, very time involving, and how do you split your time trying to engage on this very practical level with something that does take so much time and dedication with your other identity, maybe as a freelance graphic designer, or with the need to bring your farming practice to a larger community. Like, this is something I think that a lot of you face as a challenge, and I would like to hear a little bit more about how you deal with that.
Yes, that's the struggle or the challenge that I talked with Elaine and Michael a few days ago. So, for example, I'm an artist. I graduated from the fine arts department. So, and I was a travel journalist actually. That's I didn't mention to many people. Yeah, and you didn't really know. I didn't mention to many people. So this was a dream job to many of us, or even now. But it's a kind of complicated background. It's a long story, but I can put it in short. So when I was traveling overseas around the world, I can't see my own identity. So a few years ago, because I'm just a fresh graduate, and why I should visit an organic farm in Taiwan, but not doing something else in the hometown. So that is the most core or in the struggle to me. So I quit the job, and I would like to explore more about art and how I could, the making of art, and at the same time, I started farming, learning farming in Sanbukun. It's like key. I mean, agriculture, learning farming. It's like a key to me to solve many problems. For example, to question, I was questioning about my identity and questioning making of art. You make like installation or paintings or photography. What it means to the others? Is it really practical stuff, or does it give the message? Or did I a research on the particular topic? Were I using the topic? It's like, I think many of us, yeah, we are struggling about that. and I felt uneasy about that. I'm not saying, I would say we need to admit that we are using something when we are making art, but is it a proper way? Or, yeah, it's the question that I ask myself. So the farming is like a key to me that I'm not sure if anyone come up with the diagram. When I study permaculture, Mr. Yun, or some people give me the diagram showing eco and ego, ECO and EGO. So there's a diagram, the eco, so you have the icons of human being, it's not here, it's a human being and some other animals, plants. So they are in a circle. Every part of the elements, they are sharing equal sharing the eco, but not a pyramid that if you have an ego, EGO, so the human being, people is at the top of the pyramid, and the other stuff like plants, animal, they are all under you. And it's inspired me, and it's like, oh, wow, it shocked me. Because, you know, artists has an ego. We think our artwork, we are the most important message that we would like to give out. Or even some of the traditional farming, they are not in a permaculture way. So I would like to, for example, if I'm a traditional farmer, I would like to earn as much as I can. I can control the time of harvesting the potatoes. I can do anything I can do to earn a lot of money. So it's not equal, it's just an ego. I want to control, I will be the controller. So it shocked me, and it's quite inspiring to me. So, and I think it's then at the time I learned farming, I started to be humble and to put it away of the other like identity. I'm an artist or I'm a journalist. I can do something that's special to the others or important to the public. I just put it aside. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Sorry. Yeah.
And do you still practice art?
Yeah. Yes. So.
Do you use the farming and the concept of how you farm as an inspiration?
Yes.
Maybe you can talk about some of the works that inspire you.
Yeah. And for example, thanks for the questions. So, but and if you want to put it aside, but actually you can't, because you are the like architecture designer or like freelance animator. So it's a struggle between that. Why don't you become a full-time farmer? Because you are a designer, you are an artist. You have the sense of knowing or explaining farming in your own way, own perspective. You can't really put it aside. It's another challenge to you to put it aside. So you are just doing something humble yourself. So why don't you just, it's an alert, and I start to doing something that relate to farming, food and farming. For example, I admire some of the edible plants. They have a beautiful flowers that may not be really common to some of us. Yeah, I start to admire and to do some research on it and taking the photos on doing some like animation. And for example, the workshop I cooperate with Kiki, the leftover food workshop, Bandung, it's like more than a research and a like community project to how you make a like beautiful bandung and in your own way using the leftover food. In the kitchen or in the farm. So I'm not going to like hard selling myself, but it's kind of like I start to make it integrated, because we have no time, as you have said, we have a time balancing. So why don't and as I have said, we want to practice the half farming, half eggs. So, but we have no time actually. If you divide it into half and half, you have only half of the time. It's limited. I think many of us are, facing the same problems. I'm not sure about the other. How do you, face about it on?
Yeah, we've been speaking about this recently with Elaine. She's made, or I guess Spring and Elaine have made the observation that each member of Hong Kong Farm is actually very, very different. So we have Anthony, who's usually wearing a business suit when he comes here to water the plants or for lunchtime meetings. He's in business management. Business consulting. To be honest, we don't really know what he does, but he's just really good at Excel, and he's quick, strategic, and he really enjoys farming. And Glenn's an artist and photographer, and myself, some of my students are here. I teach design and also interdisciplinary art, which is also quite an odd thing for me, coming from a completely design and industrial design background. And then suddenly, I guess, with our creative backgrounds and education or jobs or freelance or self-initiated projects, this proportion of our life is now dedicated to farming, and which is something which takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. But how do we kind of make that balance? Like some people talk about farmer X, or some people talk about having like multiple jobs or multiple hats. But actually throughout this week, walking around with Elaine and meeting everyone over here, I've started to actually feel like less of a farmer. Which is, I'm completely fine with it. So I think at the beginning I probably felt like maybe 20% farmer, and I could kind of like split my 5-day weekdays into or my week into like 5 different days, and then I just work out an arbitrary number, maybe 20%. But after visiting each farm, I then reflect back and think, wow, I actually have very, very little time for farming, but I do have more time for responding to farming issues. And I think Rishi and Emily could probably see that in the number of emails that we're like writing relating to the Admiralty farm. And I think it's this kind of balance and this sensitivity that I've been experiencing with urban agriculture, as well as like going to farms in the New Territories. It's this continuous kind of self-reflection and this transition between like urban farming issues or connecting with the urban community, as well as responding or being affected by like land development issues that are happening in the New Territories. And this kind of like this transition and this kind of like this radar is constantly kind of changing, almost on like a daily basis. And I guess like with me and Glenn, we talk about responding to these issues like in creative ways, not necessarily having huge bulk harvests, because if you look outside, in terms of like arable land or like soil implanters, we're not completely utilizing the whole space, because there are a lot of other issues involved, and logistics and going to get the soil. And so this process of collecting the soil, it becomes like a very reflective exercise for us, and it allows me, Glenn and Anthony to reconnect back to the project when we're in the New Territories, because during the time that we have in the city, it's in some ways it's quite precious or perhaps quite rushed. But for example, when we went to dig soil the other day, we were having a very healthy or like productive, I guess you could call meetings, or like small little discussions, or like organizing, self-organizing whilst carrying planters. And I think it's like something's happening, and in Hong Kong and farming-wise or land development-wise, and it feeds back into our projects in ways which are very unpredictable sometimes. For example, this morning I went to visit Mango King, the homeless gorilla farmer, just to say hi, but then I suddenly felt this rush to finish some other work that we needed to do today. But I was very aware when I was with him and watching him watering like his whole farm. I felt very connected to nature through him. So this dialogue that we've been having with farmers, or this interaction, I find perhaps like a very meaningful and valuable part of my practice. And when I talk to my students about meeting farmers or meeting people that are part of their projects, I think this is a very important kind of social shift that's happening perhaps along creative disciplines now. And I think when I go to teach and I see the issues that the students are now trying to confront or perhaps try and solve or alleviate, that also relates back to my positioning as some sort of farmer in the urban environment. Hope that kind of makes sense.
I think there's something quite interesting about this, a lot of back to the land movements that are happening, not just here, but also all over the world, but in the sense of how that works here, where actually most of you were not farmers from the beginning, maybe except for Glenn, who started farming when he was a kid. But this has been a new process. It's not something that you're going back to, actually. And I think it's something where you have to relate to this idea of also being an artist, because you're actually taking some information from somewhere else or trying to understand how you can rework it in your context. And this, I think, if we think about some of the keywords or things that have come up today, like this interest in permaculture or this interest in diversity, biodiversity, how those things actually are something that can be held in common, both in the sphere of growing and agriculture, but also as an artistic way of treating your life, your daily life, but also your creative life. And I think these are things that maybe that you have to do in a new way, because there's no going back to something. It's not something that existed before, to bring these practices into this context in Hong Kong. And why this is so politicized here is something also that creates a sense of urgency, I think, to what you guys are doing, and I think why it's so important maybe to try to share it as we are today. I think the problem is then if it takes so much time away from the actual farming. I think you guys have also mentioned this before as well, that some of the activities that you're doing, you don't know how to share anymore, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Or
I think talk about like time management, because I have a full-time job, so I only farm on the weekends. And I don't really consider myself as a fruit producer because I can't produce any. I do a lot of like Facebooking instead. I do some Facebooking for Uncle Mui actually, because like what I think is like he is really willing to share his farm with people, but like he is an individual, like he doesn't really use computer a lot. He doesn't really have the time to talk to each one of us so much. But like with Facebooking is a good way for people to understand how a farm works or how plants grow, or to see the flowers of basil and so on and so forth. Well, it's what I can do, I would say. And for time balancing, because like for these few years we have been doing a lot of projects, workshops and scenes, and because like there are sometimes this invitation like commission from other groups or artists. And sometimes it's like from the government funding, so they have a lot of timelines and stuff we have to follow. And yeah, so we are thinking like maybe this year we will not do all this stuff anymore and try to grow something, because it's very, very exhausting to do this kind of workshop. We have to go into the field. We have like this kind of guerrilla gardening workshop. We have to first walk in the community, talk to people and see what is happening in the community. Like if there are empty lands, or if there are planters that are not really being very nicely utilized. And then we have to go back and do a lot of research. Well, it's a very long process, and actually we think that maybe it's a good thing to sometimes go back to the land and maybe go back to the farm and just try to enjoy the time with the farm itself.
For all of you, what have you thought is like the best way to share like what you've learned and the knowledge and stuff? Is it through like workshops, or you mentioned like zines over here, or like websites and stuff? What's the best way that you've shared what you've learned through farming?
It's funny that Dorothy talks about Facebook, because I just realised we're all very, very active on Facebook. Perhaps this generation of Farmer X, Instagram. God, don't get me started. So yeah, I think zines are interesting, but they're they've got like this kind of culture, and it's very a personal experience, like picking up a piece of paper that someone's printed and like hand stapled and hand trimmed, and but it's also very selective as well. Like I was only able to make 50, which is quite a lot actually. It's like, but when Dorothy was talking about she does Facebook for Mr. Moy, so Mr. Moy is like a 80-year-old man that they're farming or gardening with. I've been starting to realize that this kind of generation, or whatever we are, we've become like this kind of a huge promoter of farmers and farms in Hong Kong. So we blog about farming issues, farming movements, produce that's on sale from other farms. For example, if we go to each other's farm, like I went to Sunwok Gung the other day, it felt natural to take a photo of the king radish. They had a really huge radish, which was like really, really big, and it feels natural to support each other through social media. And I think especially Emily, we're working on this Facebook page, and collectively, but I could see that she's very, very passionate and very up to date with all her posts. So I'm actually learning about my information through these people and through these workshops. So this platform, the social media, I think is very successful in connecting us to these land issues, and it feels intuitive to respond to them, and then slowly, as you get to know more and more farmers or gardeners in Hong Kong, you become part of these different groups, and you could then kind of jump around and like join each other's workshops or each other's meetings or WhatsApp groups, and suddenly you feel like you're part of this this movement, or this kind of intangible or ever-changing force. And it feels like intuitive. Like, for example, Josh wrote something, I see you, Josh wrote something on this event's Facebook page about, can he bring seeds? And like, of course. And then suddenly we a lot of other people bring seeds, and we've brought a whole seed box here, which you're more than welcome to access. And then there's the follow-up as well that we're really interested in. Like one example was on the Admiralty farm when we were giving away plants. Christopher Doyle, the cinematographer, maybe you could talk about that story.
Oh, well, actually, you're asking like where do we get the source of information to? How we share it? I think it starts from yourself. I mean, it seems like it's all the influence or all the information from outside that trigger you to, oh, I want to learn this. But actually, I think when I look at myself, I think it got to be something inside. You have a hole inside that you need something, and you maybe, as what the Buddha way say, you have a path that eventually you're going this way, but you're not quite conscious about it. It's just like I go to the Mapopo farmland. I don't intentionally to learn farming at all at that time. I just go to learn a one-day workshop in making the bread. That's it. But then when you get there, and then you start to know the whole issue about the farm, the whole issue is not making bread, it's the whole farming at the back. So, and of course I can reject to join the farm workshop, but I decide to. It's because I think maybe I need it. But why I need it, I don't know. Maybe it's a paradigm shift, but well, it's well, talking about inspiration, I think like on the other hand, like this gentleman next to me, I remember that you first get to Hong Kong in 2009, right? It's because I read his magazine. You know the famous popular magazine 飲食男女 Eat Drink Man and Woman, huh? Yeah.
That's the movie, actually. No.
Yeah, okay. And there's a like 3 or 4 page interview about the Beastman, right? Beastman, because he very mostly I just look at this magazine like this, but the Green Life section is excellent. Really, because you can see they taking photo and writing the article by heart, and it's just touching you. So one issue is about interview this man. He just came to Hong Kong and bringing how many bees? How many?
I didn't bring bees.
Where did they come from?
Oh, they came from my beekeeping master in Sha Tin.
Oh, yeah. And that's how introduced, and I look at the photo. Wow, so young. That's and very handsome.
It's attractive.
Okay, and eventually we meet in the permaculture class in Mapopo. So it's just like you thought this is some people, they young at heart, they already have some thinking about the farming and agriculture, and what farming and agriculture mean to you and him or her is different. To some people, it's production. Wow, I'm very proud to produce it. But to some people, it's a connection to their life and living. So it's all different issue. So yeah, the MOT farm, Christopher Doyle. Yeah, Christopher Doyle is making a documentary in the MOT. He got the fundraising in Kickstarter. We didn't really know he is doing it until later. And I think he interviewed Rishi as well in his documentary. And I remember on December 10th, which is the last day before the policemen come to strap the whole place, we saw him. Christopher. We see Christopher. We just walked past the farmland, and carrying the tomato, because that night we give away all the plants. Me and Michael was there in the afternoon and think, wow, this is so gorgeous. We just We just bring 20 bed of soil, and with all the food waste, and about 10 people, we just reconstruct the whole places with our farmer mentor in one Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, first day, the police come. We think, shall we leave it like this to make them feel very shameful? See, they are so beautiful and you destroy it. But in the last minute, we decide, no, it's not worth. The plant itself has the life, so let's give it away. We just decided like a click. And then we write a very rough banner and say, hey, come, big movement, come and take the plant you like. Yeah. And then I think in 3 hours, all the plants, including the grasses, all gone. Yeah. I feel okay. Let's settle it this way. So I finished the story. Anyone want to?
I hope this sort of makes sense, but I have an interest in food planning policy in terms of an urban planning scheme, and I'm wondering from your experience if the work that you do, if you think that is better suited in terms of a grassroots movement where you have freedom to sort of maybe perhaps particularly as artists or creative people that you seem to be, to do it in your own way, or do you think you would actually be better supported with a more structured government organised policy for urban food production, if that makes sense? Does that make sense to everyone? I'm just curious as to if you would feel more supported with that, or if you actually feel like it might impede you in terms of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, do you guys want to? Okay, that's a really good question, because I think perhaps out of us 4 groups, we've, like Glenn and I, and with Hong Kong Farm, we've been kind of walking this fine line between self-initiated, self-organized, guerrilla, grassroots projects, as well as doing like government-funded stuff. Well, not government-funded, but working on government-funded exhibitions, such as like Architecture Biennale, or what other stuff have we done? Just that, sorry. Yeah, maybe like even Oil Street. We were part of an Oil Street project, and which was also government funded as well. I think we learn, or it's a learning process. The Biennale, for example, was relatively controversial for us because of they decided to invite the chief executive to open the exhibition, and with that came protests and increased security, to the point where perhaps the artist was alienated, or perhaps unable to access their own artwork or their own opening. So with these particular events, it creates quite a relatively sour event or issue or memory, and which then allows us to then consider, should we do these particular types of projects, or should we still continue to use those projects as a particular platform? And I think if the chance came again, we would probably still do it. I think, because better from the inside. Yeah, it's better from the inside. That's why I'm teaching at PolyU. It's better to kind of do some sort of protest, be it soft, discreet, or perhaps even quite obvious within a particular structure. But then, for example, doing these guerrilla projects, or having like complete freedom to kind of roam and investigate new rooftops, or like new guerrilla gardeners, or homeless farmers, or people that aren't exactly people who are low profile. It's good to understand what they're doing, and to be inspired by it, and let it kind of reflect or concentrate your own practice. And I think perhaps, well, actually, I don't think, I know that this particular platform, like doing this residency, 1-year residency at Spring, it's brought a lot of interesting challenges to us, but it's also created a platform which I still believe we haven't potentially unleashed yet, but it's definitely like a work in progress. It's created a platform for us to talk about Northeastern New Territory land issues. The might or the power of the developer in Hong Kong is suffocating our farming industry. And then it presents a problem, well, not a problem, a good problem for us in how to communicate these issues in the non kind of religious or like brainwashing type of way, and to invite like-minded people that are working across these different levels to share some sort of discussion and contribute to this creative process or this creative 1-year project. And sometimes it can be perhaps a very art-based form of communication. So if we do a particular, perhaps like a photo series or some really detailed research, but then it could also be inspired by our experience in grassroots projects. And I think one example which I think about every time I get the bus back to Kowloon is this shop, this convenience shop, which is near the bus stop across the road. It's like a shack. It's just made from like metal, corrugated metal, and like breeze blocks. And there's a tree growing out from this shop. And the shop looks more like a house. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they probably live in that.
She lives there.
She lives there. An old woman lives there. And so we've been talking about this tree for like a few months, or since the beginning actually. And yeah, and we know that eventually during this residency we're gonna speak to that shop owner, that old woman, and talk to her about the tree. Show her sincere, deep interest in the tree, her story, her background, how this tree was formed. And I think somebody like Marcus, he has this experience of being fascinated by one particular type of tree in almost like a very intense and close way. And so this our training or our training within community projects, we know that will be useful in discovering the origin of that tree, and we'll use a particular process, which is probably something that will, I don't know, I mean, I hate to say it now, but maybe it will turn into like a guerrilla gardening project with that old lady, or perhaps some sort of exchange, some farming exchange with her. So yeah, and also Glenn's been talking about security guards in Wong Chuk Hang in the industrial buildings that that reclaim some public space and have their own garden outside their security room. And why does this exist with security guards in Hong Kong? Each security guard seems to have a tree outside their car park. So there's a desire to grow their own food. Maybe they have a farming background. There's a desire to reconnect to nature, and security guards are sometimes quite hostile, especially the ones in this building. But how do we connect to them through farming? And then suddenly, by having experiences like in Wong Chuk Hang, which we probably never would have had previously, it then, it creates these new conversations that will inevitably happen.
Yeah, just responding to the government funding problem. Actually, we got the funding from ADC, Arts Development Council, so actually it's less sensitive. The only problem that we encountered was when we were trying to apply for the funding for this project. Actually, somebody from the council called Kiki one day, and asking like, it's not an art project, right? So actually it takes a while to like for us to explain to them like what is an environmental art project is. It's not teaching people how to grow stuff. Of course we have to like trim down the proposal a bit to fit in the stuff, but actually it's a very, we were lucky to get the fund because they were also not very, they are very flexible. They didn't really like go into the way like saying that you cannot do this and do that. So it gave us sort of freedom. But I think the only thing that we are now more aware of is like why we have to get the funding to do this kind of stuff. Actually, a lot of farming projects doesn't really take any money other than the artist fee. Just go into the community and talk to the people or just documenting the process, and it doesn't really take a lot of money, and if we are doing it on our own, it will give us like more freedom. But like on the other hand, like when we are talking about the government policy on the food in general, I would have to say like the government is really not happy about like having people to grow their own stuff. You can see a lot of things being like happening in the community, like people cannot really use the land, and there are lots of government advertisement on the TV, especially in the summer. They will say like growing food on the hill slope would cause like mosquito problems or landslide, blah blah blah. So don't do this. It sounds really silly, but they're doing different ways to hinder you from like utilizing the space that even they don't want to use. They don't want you to use neither. Or they just give you a very limited freedom, like they rent out this kind of community garden, but it's only like 1 meter times 1 meter. So you can imagine you can just grow maybe a few pieces of like basil and that's all. But they are doing this, and there's a long queue like queuing for this kind of space, even it's like so small, and it's not like, you cannot rent it like 3 years, it's only year-based. So, so I would say like, from the like government policy, maybe this has maybe they can still do a lot, but I'm not sure if they really want to do this or they want us to rely on the PRC mainland.
I want to respond to the funding and some of the like positioning issue. So Sun Wukong is actually self-fund. We had some project that was funded by some like Robert Ho Foundation, and I might got some project that is funded by ADC, but it's not that direct, sensitive to the government policy. I think getting the funding or not is sometimes how you position yourself and how you make it as your pace, because Sun Wukong, we are self-funded. It is happy that we start to earn more money starting from last year, the October last year. It's quite crazy because all of us, other members in Sun Wukong, we are not paid for the past few years. We have our own freedom and our choice to get close to other, or we can have a choice that we stop doing the promotion or stop doing workshop. We had a kind of freedom to do so, but we work in a very, very slow pace. That is, there's a kind of, you have to go sometimes you have to go faster. For example, we had a workshop last year, September, the making of jam, and the guest asked us, when is your second workshop? Then I can't answer. And some of the online platform of that giving information of what's going on in Hong Kong when we do the workshop, I can't answer them because we are like, we have limited of time, we can't do all the things. But it's like when you are stepping into the public push you to, they want to get something back. And we have been running faster to catch it and to think what can we do for that and what is our pace. yeah, for doing that. Yeah, but your experience on the occupied area, that's make me remember actually, some local members, we went to the occupied area for time to times, and on a night there is the tear gas bomb, and Chao Si-jung, Jenny, and I, we were sleeping in Causeway Bay, but after that we discussed about feeling emotion in the occupied area. We all think, oh, it seems that we are too old to join the post-technos because we are in a different mode. So at the time we are anti-high-speed train, high-speed railway. We could like stay over for a few nights, not sleeping, and doing something that's energetic, or you can say we put all our effort on the protest. But when we were in the occupying area last year, we think we are quite extra. We know we are not extra, but we thought, what can I do in the area? It's kind of, and we think, should I go back to the farm? Because we found that we could do something more practical, or we felt more comfortable when going back to the land. But I do appreciate you guys doing everything in the occupied area, because it's about the positioning of, it's like the map, So you're in the, Hong Kong Island or Kowloon size area, that because we have limited of time, it's like that we are going as a whole. So you're the hands and I'm the legs, and we're thinking together to work out some things that we think is very important to Hong Kong and to the world. So I think the connection is crucial when we are working together. Yeah.
To continue what Lai just said, I also, it occurred to me what I can do in the occupied MOT. I always feel that I'm not quite interested to protest every day, like shouting and yelling or sitting there. So I just assigned myself like bringing some pots and seat. Just bring there and you put some seat. You got to go back there to do watering. You can't just leave it there and let it die, right? So you give yourself an excuse. So I bring my kid to do a camping there for one weekend, and then order him to do all this, and then that's how it starts. And I have to go back. Actually, sometimes I don't want to come back because I need to stay in the studio to work. But then I think, okay, you have the baby there. You got to finish it and go back. But I want to say is the idea to do this is a little action, right? But I think just don't knock it. Sometimes you got to trust your heart. I don't know where it come from, from an action like this, but it just evolved and it like a growing snowball, and things happen. Like you do 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, someone else will come to do with you together. And I think that's one of the amazing things, to do the connection. And about the question, the rooftop farming in Seculmate don't have the funding, but we fight for it. We fight with, no. Actually, I think before we really do the planting upstairs, we were illegal. We've been labeled as illegal by the management in Jockey Club Creative Arts Center. Because I remember me and Ivy, the other friends, another artist, we put some pots and plants on the rooftop. I don't know if any one of you been to that art center. It's nothing, it's naked, nothing. It's just the concrete. So we put something that needs sunshine, and plenty of sunshine, we put it there. And then a few days after, I received a letter and say, hey, move it out, illegal. Otherwise, they will take action. And then I write back and say, no, why you have to bother about the plants? You allow the people to almost naked to take photo there upstairs, and why you worry about the little plants there? And then we just keep on persistent. But of course, at that time we worry that maybe they kick us out because they like no BU people here, right? Oh. So it's just keep on like this. We just move on the plant there. We just sort of like ignore them, and at the other side we keep on communicate with them and say, don't worry, don't worry. And I remember 2 years ago there's an art opening there in JCCAC, and the head of BU and also the guys, Ma Fong Go is representative of the art sectors in the Hong Kong government, right? They come to have an opening very early in the morning. So our CEO in JCCAC bring all the groups to look at. We have a planting exhibition in a green area. They come and see, and we have a big wording called permaculture. It's like the first time they say, "Wow, permaculture." And no, our CEO say permaculture. She just learned it. And then the head of BU say, great, let's plant it upstairs. And that's how we got the green light. And you know, we didn't expect that. But then, okay, we just very quickly put a very professional, official proposal and give it to the management. And I think within 3 months, they phone us and they say, hey, let's talk about it. And then we start the rooftop upstairs. So before that, when I think about it, it's like we don't get funding and they don't pay for us. And they even have like 40 terms and conditions in the contract. Something like if someone die upstairs, it's your neck. It's like someone jumped down or something happened on the farmland. A lot of the terms and conditions is so ridiculous. And then we say, take it out, take it out. You are the landlord, you take care of it. So we keep on the tango. It's like a tango. We keep on communication. And now we are still planning there. They are not kicking us out yet. And I think we are doing them good because some people come to JCCAC because they come to see the farm. And we are happy to see that. And sometimes we have some food and we bring it to the management and share with them and tell them that, hey, although we are not friends, but we like to sharing, caring, fun, and friend, right? This is an art village. Just build it up together. So sometimes it's something involve money, but sometimes it's about a relationship that counts. Yeah.
I think actually we might be running out of time, but actually I wanted to say thank you again to all of you for coming today and for all of you for sharing with us. And actually, Spring has generously decided to open up the kitchen for us as well today, I believe. So we might be cooking together if some of you guys want to stay and hang out and talk a bit more. We're going to cook together, and you're welcome to stay and hang out with us on the terrace or whatnot. And otherwise, speaking of funding, again, actually, it would be great if you guys have seen the tables here, and especially Samut Gun has generously brought a lot of their harvest, these giant radishes that Michael was talking about. There are some of them over there. And you guys are welcome to take them home, and we really hope that you'd be willing also to support some of these groups, because some funding, yes, but mostly for small projects. But at the end of the day, I think Yamate Gardener especially is a very grassroots project, and they are doing these, all of them are putting their time into these projects on their own, every group. And so it would be very nice if you guys would be willing to help out and support these groups and to talk to people actually about maybe some of the things that we've talked about today. And let's see where that carries forward. But thank you.